Good afternoon. My name is Joe Wirt. I'm Faculty Senate President of the Southeast Campus and co-chair of the University Faculty Council. On behalf of the UFC, welcome to the 2018 State of the University Address. President Michael McRobbie became the 18th president of Indiana University in 2007. During his tenure at the helm of IU, President McRobbie has fundamentally transformed this university to be a truly world-class university. He has led a reinvigoration of IU's commitment to global engagement that supports this university's academic and educational programs, both here and abroad. He has overseen the largest academic restructuring in IU's history and has seen the establishment of 10 new schools. He has overseen the spending of $2.5 billion on construction and renovation in new buildings on all IU campuses. He has overseen the launching of the largest fundraising campaign in IU history and one of the largest at any public university, with a goal of raising $3 billion by IU's bicentennial in 2020. President McRobbie's leadership has been truly visionary. Working in conjunction with the Board of Trustees and the faculty of Indiana University, we have become a university the state of Indiana can be truly proud of. Please join me in welcoming the 18th president of Indiana University, President Michael McRobbie.
Thank you very much, Professor Wirt, for that kind introduction. And I'm very pleased to present to my fellow faculty members and colleagues and to the broader university community my 12th State of the University Address. But before I begin my address, I would like to address an issue that is presently of great concern to many of our students and their parents. And this concerns the presence of mold in a number of our student halls of residence. Tom Morrison, IU's Vice President for Capital Planning and Capital Projects and Planning, is leading the remediation efforts. To date, we have remediated 285 rooms, and we are urgently remediating and inspecting an additional 140 rooms. We have provided temporary housing to students and will continue to do so until every room has been remediated and confirmatory air sampling proves that it is safe to remain in the room. We have an independent third party confirming the air quality before students return, and we will have them repeat these tests as needed. In addition, by Friday of this week, we will have a claims processing procedure in place. Any student who has received medical care for any respiratory illness or any other illness related to mold since the beginning of the academic year will be fully reimbursed for these medical expenses. We will put information on our website, buildings.iu.edu, to notify you as to how to file such a claim. And we are providing free laundry facilities for all students in McNutt and Foster, and we will be providing a laundry service for all bedding which will meet public health standards. Those students who have incurred expenses to move out of their rooms before October 15, when IU provided alternative housing and moving services, will also be fully reimbursed. Finally, we have heard the concerns expressed about the impact of this issue on the academics of students. A message has been sent to each dean and department chair on the Bloomington campus explaining the nature of the problem and instructing our faculty to make, quote, accommodation for freshmen from these dorms, particularly in regard to assignments and exams. And I'm extremely sorry the freshman semester for many of our students started off with this trying circumstance. We are doing everything we can to provide a safe and healthy environment for our students, and we are doing everything we can to limit the inconvenience as much as possible while we conduct the remediation. Now, this will be the last State of the University address that I give before Indiana University's bicentennial year, which commences on July 1, 2019, and which ends on June 3, 2020. As of today, this is a mere 258 days away. And the actual bicentennial date itself for the founding of the university, January 20, 2020, is just 462 days away. Almost from the day I became president, we have been focused on how we could use the enormous and unique symbolic importance of this date and all that it represents, to improve all aspects of the university and to prepare for its third century of greatness. We defined the principles that would guide us in doing this in our Principles of Excellence. And over the last decade, plans were developed in nearly every area of the university with these goals in mind, and which reflected the principles. Much of this planning was drawn together in the 5-year IU Bicentennial Strategic Plan approved by the IU Board of Trustees in December 2014. And for over a decade, these plans have been vigorously, energetically, creatively, and above all, successfully implemented. The results have changed the very face of the university. Literally thousands have worked tirelessly, ceaselessly, and with enormous dedication to make this happen. And as it enters its third century, Indiana University and future generations of students, faculty, staff, and alumni will be forever in their debt. In my bicentennial State of the University address a year from now, I intend to survey the results of the implementation of all these bicentennial strategic planning efforts and also to assess the success and progress. This year, I'll mainly restrict myself to some of the most notable of this year's achievements and some significant developments arising from my State of the University address last year. Of course, the bicentennial year will be marked by extensive commemorations and celebrations, many of which are already underway and which are being organized and coordinated by the Office of the Bicentennial. And ongoing details can be found at 200.iu.edu, a very simple one to remember. The Bicentennial Director, Kelly Kish, and her staff are to be congratulated on the outstanding work that they have already done that will ensure that IU's bicentennial year will be an unforgettable milestone in IU's history. This year was another banner year for Indiana University with once again a number of record-setting achievements. As the state's flagship and namesake public institution of higher education, Indiana University has a special responsibility to the people of Indiana to provide an education of the highest quality and to produce graduates in areas of importance to the state and to the nation. IU continues to do this in an exemplary fashion, educating more Hoosiers than ever before, including a growing number of professional and specialized areas that are essential to Indiana's economy. We also attract talented students from around the country and the world, many of whom contribute to the state's brain gain by staying in Indiana after they graduate and entering the workforce, hence helping to address the need for talent in Indiana's booming economy. Many of them contribute to starting new businesses and forming new companies. And this spring, IU conferred a record of more than 21,000 IU degrees to our newest Hoosier alumni across all 7 of our campuses, including record numbers of graduates in Bloomington, Indianapolis, and Kokomo, far and away the largest group of graduates to be produced by any one institution in Indiana. The sheer size of IU's graduating class is a constant reminder of how IU is the state's educational powerhouse and of the major role that IU continues to play in creating and advancing the educational, intellectual, economic, social, and cultural fabric of the Hoosier state. The IU student body is also more diverse than ever before. For the second consecutive year, IU's student body contains more than 20,000 degree-seeking minority students, setting a new record for diversity at the university. Minority students now constitute about a quarter of IU's degree-seeking domestic student population. And this represents nearly a doubling of the number of minority students at IU since 2007. And this outstanding improvement is due to the dedicated efforts of all those who have worked over many years to help develop our campuses into diverse, multicultural academic communities that serve as models for higher education, the state of Indiana, and for society at large. As always, central to our efforts to provide a high-quality education and produce graduates who are ready to make an impact on the world is ensuring that an IU education remains accessible and affordable to all. IU's Money Smarts program, introduced in 2012, was designed to help students understand the impact of student loan borrowing and repayment schedules. It was named as a model of excellence and has played a central role in the major drop in the volume of student loan borrowing that we have seen in recent years. Between 2016-17 and 2017-18 academic years, the volume of student loans by IU undergraduate students fell again, and by $13.6 million in this period. Newly released numbers show that over a 6-year period from 2011-12 to 2017-18, undergraduate student loan volume at IU from both federal and private loans fell a remarkable 19%, accounting for $126.4 million less in borrowed money. Federal loan volume for all students was down $143.3 million, or 23.7%. Indiana University also continues to be the state's research powerhouse. During the last academic year, IU researchers received $604.4 million in external funding for research and other activities. This is the highest total of external grant funding obtained by any research university in the state during the last fiscal year, and the second highest annual total in IU history, only slightly below the previous record. This includes $314.8 million in federal and state government grants, highlighted by an IU record of $204.7 million in funding from the National Institutes of Health, the major federal government source of support for health sciences research in the United States, and $44.1 million in awards from the National Science Foundation, as well as nearly $75 million in sponsored funding from industry. It also includes a total of $203.1 million in non-government grants, which is also an IU record. The enormous success that IU faculty have had in competing for sponsored awards in an environment that continues to grow more and more competitive is testimony to the quality of IU's faculty and of their work, and of the work of the staff and students who work in their research teams. IU's outstanding faculty are engaged in a wide range of research and scholarship that results in a generation of innovative new ideas, new intellectual works and discoveries that cure disease, protect our environment, help secure our nation, grow the economy, and advance art and culture in our communities. This includes, of course, the work of IU faculty members in the Grand Challenges program, where faculty members are working to cure cancer and childhood disease, prevent chronic illness and neurodegenerative disease, help Indiana communities prepare for environmental change, and combat the pervasive and grave substance abuse crisis in Indiana and the US in partnership with the state government, local communities, and healthcare providers statewide. There are hundreds of excellent faculty members with their teams of staff and students who successfully obtained grant funding last year, but I'd like to single out just one in particular. Dr. Liana Apostolova, who is the Barbara and Per Beckgard Professor in Alzheimer's Disease Research in the Department of Neurology and the IU School of Medicine, obtained a $7.6 million grant from the National Institutes of Health to establish and lead a major nationwide project in the study of early onset Alzheimer's disease. And just last week, it was announced that she had obtained the second half of funding for this project from the NIH, $44.7 million, for combined funding for the project of $52.3 million. This represents the largest amount of National Institutes of Health funding ever for a research project at Indiana University. And I'm sure you'll all join me in congratulating Dr. Apostolova and her outstanding research team. Last year was also a record year in the history of fundraising at IU. Last year, IU received a record of $550.1 million in total private, individual, and institutional philanthropy given by the alumni and friends of Indiana University, the highest annual total in the history of Indiana University. This figure represents a 19% increase in philanthropic support over the previous year, and it also marks the 5th consecutive year that Indiana University has set a record for the amount of private, individual, and institutional philanthropy received. This total of $550.1 million includes more than $347 million in philanthropic gifts from nearly 112,000 donors. It also includes the record total of $203.1 million in non-government grants that I mentioned just a moment ago. And so overall research funding of $604.4 million, including government and non-government grants, plus private philanthropy of $347 million, totals nearly $1 billion, $951.4 million to be precise, which dramatically underscores the extensive scale of research funding and philanthropic support that Indiana University continues to attract. As most of you know, we are in the midst of the IU for All Bicentennial campaign. our first ever university-wide fundraising campaign with the goal of raising $3 billion by the end of the bicentennial year, a goal that was raised from $2.5 billion only a year ago, given how successful the campaign had already been by that stage. So I'm extremely pleased to report that the campaign is well ahead of schedule, having raised more than $2.6 billion to date with the support of nearly 300,000 individual donors. A particular focus of the bicentennial campaign is the raising of funds to endow chairs and professorships that will help IU recruit and retain the very best and most creative faculty who are the innovators and leaders in their disciplines, and by raising funding to endow new undergraduate scholarships and graduate fellowships that will allow greater numbers of talented students of limited means to attend IU and earn an education that will change their lives. I'm delighted to report that to date, funds have now been raised to endow 190 new faculty positions, mainly new endowed chairs and professorships, which is a remarkable increase of 42% over the previous number. And I'm also delighted to report that to date, funds have also been raised to endow more than 4,500 new scholarships and fellowships, which is an equally remarkable increase of more than 35% over the previous number. These are both quite extraordinary numbers, as in both cases they represent increases that have happened over less than 10 years to totals accumulated over the previous 190 years. And as I'm addressing the University Faculty Council, again, as I did last year, want to make particular mention of the faculty and staff campaign that is part of the bicentennial campaign. Here, more than $163 million has been given by more than 15,300 faculty and staff members. And I want to again commend the energetic and enthusiastic work of a former co-chair of this body, Jim Sherman, for his work in encouraging faculty to make gifts to the campaign. And I know that many people in this room have given to the campaign, and I want to thank them all most sincerely for their remarkable generosity, as well as thank more generally all of the alumni, friends, faculty, staff, students, parents, companies, foundations, and other organizations who have supported IU philanthropically during this campaign. As I repeatedly say, philanthropy serves as one of the great pillars that supports the American system of higher education, making it the finest in the world. In my third State of the University address in February 2010, I announced the establishment of the new Academic Directions Committee under the leadership of then IU Bloomington Provost Karen Hansen, then IUPUI Chancellor Charles Bance, and Executive Vice President John Applegate, and comprising some of the university's most distinguished and visionary faculty and academic administrators. I asked the committee to consider whether IU was offering the right kinds of degrees and educational opportunities that one should expect of a university that aspires to be one of the finest universities of the 21st century, and whether the structure and organization of the academic units of IU allowed this to happen in the most effective way. This was, as I said at the time, one of the most important exercises of its kind ever carried out at Indiana University. The committee presented its report to me in the spring of 2011, and I presented it to the IU Board of Trustees in April of that year and received their broad endorsement to move ahead with implementing its recommendations. In my fifth State of the University address in September 2011, I described this process. Since then, in every one of my State of the University addresses, I've described the remarkable and transformative progress that has been made in implementing these recommendations. Among its most important outcomes has been the restructuring, merging, or creation of 10 new schools on the Bloomington and Indianapolis campuses, each of which focuses on some contemporary area of major importance to the state of Indiana and to society more broadly, or to some contemporary area of demand, or some contemporary area in demand by our students. This is the largest academic restructuring in IU's history. It defies the oft-expressed view that universities are impervious or slow to change. Hundreds of faculty and staff have supported these changes and are to be congratulated for their clear-sightedness and commitment to ensuring that IU offers the best and most contemporary education programs and can carry out the most important and relevant research. The latest 3 of these 10 new schools commenced their operations on July 1st this year. The new schools of education at IU Bloomington and IUPUI that were formed out of the previous core school that straddled both campuses, and the School of Health and Human Sciences at IUPUI formed from the merger of the previous School of Physical Education and Tourism Management and the School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences. Those are the 3 new schools that commenced on the 1st of July. The School of Education at IU Bloomington will focus on continuing to strengthen its undergraduate teacher education and graduate programs and better connect students with cutting-edge educational research, while the School of Education at IUPY will focus on urban education and especially the Indianapolis Public Schools. And by reducing competition and producing stronger, aligned undergraduate programs, the School of Health and Human Sciences is providing a solid foundation for future careers in the health professions, as well as emerging careers related to health and wellness. I've spoken in some detail in previous State of the University addresses about other schools, but I want to mention, just two of them again for some of the major developments concerning them that have happened just in recent weeks. 2 weeks ago, I had the great pleasure of announcing that the School of Global and International Studies, which was established in 2012 within the College of Arts and Sciences here on the Bloomington campus, has been named the Hamilton Lugar School of Global and International Studies, in honor of two of Indiana's and America's greatest statesmen, Congressman Lee Hamilton and Senator Richard Lugar. Naming the school in their honor is a fitting and appropriate tribute that reflects their extraordinary service to the state of Indiana and the nation. In these times of grave national division and rancorous and destructive partisanship, their names linked together in the naming of the school demonstrates symbolically, but more than symbolically, that our nation is at its best and most admirable when the partisan divide is bridged in the national interest and in the interests of the world. Both have served as distinguished scholars and professors of practice in the school since 2013, providing our students and faculty with a unique opportunity to learn from and work with them. We announced at the same time a special fundraising campaign to raise $25 million to endow new scholarships and faculty positions in the Hamilton Lugar School. One of the Hamilton Lugar School's greatest strengths, and a strength of the IU Bloomington campus more generally, is instruction and scholarship in foreign languages. Instruction is offered annually in around 70 foreign languages, and over the last 5 years, IU has offered instruction in a total of around 90 languages, far more than any other university in the country. This strength was emphatically underscored just a few weeks ago when it was announced that a record number of 18 languages and area studies centres and programs affiliated with the Hamilton Lugar School were awarded a total of $18.8 million over 4 years under the US Department of Education's prestigious Title VI program. Just a few weeks later, it was also announced that the Centre for International Business Education and Research at the Kelley School of Business had been awarded an additional $1.28 million Title VI grant. In total then, in the present round of Title VI awards to IU's international centres and programs, funding has surpassed $20 million in 2018. And this is a record outcome for IU, a record in the 60-year history of the Title VI program, and the best outcome for any university in the country. It is also a record amount of external funding for the humanities at IU, and we're not resting on our past successes. Next weekend, we will host our first Bicentennial Symposium on International Education at the Crossroads, with national thought and policy leaders convening at IU to discuss the future of this critical national priority. Professors Deborah Cohn and Hilary Kahn have developed an intellectually stimulating program, and all are welcome to attend. We thank them and their colleagues for positioning IU at the dawn of our third century as the nationally recognized leader in international education. Earlier this year, we announced that the historic Republic Building in Columbus, Indiana, would be the new home of the IU Architecture program in the IU Bloomington School of Art, Architecture and Design, and that it would be renovated for this purpose with $2 million provided by the Community Education Coalition in Columbus. In recognition of this, the program was renamed the J. Owen Miller Architecture Program in honor of the longtime chair of Cummins, whose vision allowed a flowering of architecture in Columbus, which has led it to be ranked by the American Institute of Architects as architecturally the 6th most significant city in the United States. The building reopened just a few months ago, and the Miller Architecture Program welcomed its first students in the new Master of Education degree just this fall. So let me now move on to 3 matters I discussed in my State of the University address last year, and where important progress has been made over the last year: online education, excellence in teaching, and IU's collections. We continue to see rapid growth and expansion of online education at IU. As I said in my address to you last year, IU is the state's online education powerhouse. We are the largest provider of online bachelor's and higher degrees to residents of Indiana. The IU Online program, launched in 2012 with an initial investment of $8 million, has been a tremendous success. IU Online now has a portfolio of 124 online degrees and certificates, as well as nearly 2,400 courses which leverage the strengths of all 7 IU campuses. IU's regional campuses have been particularly active innovators and adapters in this field. This fall, IU's online programs again broke enrollment records with 5,746 students in online programs and more than 30,000 students, a third of all IU degree-seeking students, enrolled in at least one online course, and with more than 8,700 students taking all their courses online. There are many ways to approach online education, which, at its best, is a highly engaging and flexible mode of learning. Some universities have taken approaches different than IU's that some would say provide online qualifications of lesser quality than their core programs. At IU, we have emphasized that our programs should provide a quality, authentically IU experience, and that online courses will be treated like any other courses from the point of view of progression, transfer, general education, or for any other purpose. But we're not standing still. At the graduate level, IU has already had considerable success with, for example, highly regarded master's and doctoral degrees from the IU School of Nursing and the Kelley School of Business, where the Kelley School has had over a decade of experience with market-leading online programs market-leading MS and MBA online programs. And all schools and regional campuses now have online graduate programs and courses of some kind. However, there is a strong continuing demand for such programs and courses. Hence, IU has decided to amplify and expand the formidable array of programs it is already offering in this area by joining the not-for-profit edX consortium. And this was announced just last week. This will be bringing our considerable expertise in online degrees to edX, and we will be among the very first universities to offer genuine degrees using the edX software platform. The Kelley School of Business will begin in 2019 by offering an MS in Accounting and an MS in IT Management. And these degrees will also have options for so-called micro-masters by edX for students who only want to take a few courses to expand their professional skills, and then they may choose to pursue the full MS degree. Over the coming years, we will continue to assess this and other innovative forms of education to meet the needs of IU students in the state and beyond. Next, let me discuss teaching. Teaching is, together with research, one of the core functions of a great university. Engaging and innovative teaching should therefore be recognized, encouraged, supported, and honored as a core function of the university. I proposed several initiatives in my State of the University address last year to accomplish each of these aspects of the overall goal of raising the profile and supporting the excellence of teaching at IU. I'm very grateful for the thoughtful work that very many faculty members, governance bodies, and academic leaders have invested in these initiatives. A new website, teaching.iu.edu, gathers in one place an enormous range of teaching resources available to full and part-time IU faculty. It is curated by IU's long-standing faculty-led organisation, the Faculty Academy for Excellence in Teaching, FACET, which in itself was an innovative approach to encouraging excellence in instruction. In addition, all campuses now have in place a program of prototyping grants for teaching innovation, and they now have available excellent and comprehensive support for university and campus teaching programs. I appreciate, too, the efforts of IU's faculty organisations in evaluating the teaching pathways to promotion and tenure, as well as the crucial role of non-tenure track faculty in the university's mission. I look forward to final reports on translational efforts connecting research on learning and pedagogy into the classroom and on our system of honouring excellent teachers. It cannot be said too often that students' academic experience at IU is what sustains us through engaged students, students who re-register each semester, students who graduate with degrees that they sought, and alumni who recognise the value and indeed the life-changing experience at IU. That academic experience occurs in many places, but it begins in the classroom, laboratory, and studio. The excellence of that experience is a fundamental obligation and a central aspiration. Lastly, let me discuss collections. In my 2013 State of the University address, I first drew attention to the vital importance of our irreplaceable research and scholarly collections of video, audio, and film, and announced the Media Digitization and Preservation Initiative, what we called MDPI, aimed at digitally preserving by the Bicentennial about 300,000 of these items judged by our faculty to be the most important. As of today, MDPI has in fact already digitized about 310,000 such items, and the project is set to complete its expanded goal of digitizing 350,000 of these by the end of 2020. These works are stored on IU's excellent IT systems, and they can be searched and accessed within copyright limits through the IU libraries. The scale of this digitization and its reach across so many media types is unprecedented at any university in the country. It has already drawn considerable national and international attention to the university, including almost now $1.5 million in grants from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation and the National Endowment for the Humanities. And in my State of the University address last year, I raised the further topic of our vast and impressive university collection of objects, art, cultural artifacts, archives, and manuscripts. I suggested that we should redouble our efforts to ensure that these rare and valuable assets are brought to bear on our teaching and research missions. And I'm pleased to report on on the progress of this initiative in a number of areas over the last year. First, under the direction of the Vice President for Research, Fred Kate, and after a national search, we have recently welcomed Heather Calloway as Executive Director of University Collections, whose role will be to facilitate the development of a university collections strategic plan. This plan will address the core issues of collection, scope, policies, preservation, funding, and exhibition matters, along with other core issues, while developing new collaborative relationships across collections. In the coming weeks, in consultation with Vice President Kate, she will be appointing the Research and Teaching Collections Council, which I announced last year. This group, with faculty and staff members from across the university, will advise the Vice President for Research on an ongoing basis and will work closely with the related leadership and research administration, schools, and the university's libraries, all of which have a vested interest and provide expert oversight and support to the university collections. This past spring, we launched collections.iu.edu, which I highly commend to you, which is a new website that for the first time ever begins to bring together all of these incredible collection assets under one public-facing portal. The site will continue to develop features in the coming months, including opportunities for members of the public to access digital collections based on these. Finally, we have prioritized in our private fundraising efforts and our biennial budget request to the state of Indiana projects that will enhance our ability to exhibit objects from these fantastic collections. Joel Silver, the director of the Lilly Library, once explained that in the space that he had available at the Lilly Library alone, he could program for 60 years and never use the same object twice. We have great cultural, artistic, and scientific artifacts that simply must have more and better exhibition space. So I'm pleased to announce that we have requested from the state of Indiana renovation support for the Mathers Museum, the Glenn Black Laboratory, the Kirkwood Observatory, and the McCullough School Building, which we anticipate collectively will enable enhanced and expanded exhibition space. If there was anyone who ever doubted the value of such projects as Google Books, the Hathi Trust, or our own MDPI project, or the fabulous work of Professor Bernie Fisher in digitizing the Uffizi Gallery's collection of Greco-Roman sculptures, one need look no further than the devastating and catastrophic loss of culture, history, and science last month in a fire at the National Museum of Brazil. An article in Nature suggested it was maybe one of the largest losses of human cultural material in history. Indiana University has amassed a collection that would leave many nations envious. We have a responsibility to art, to culture, to history, science, and to the citizens of Indiana and the world who have helped to build these collections, to do everything we can to document each artifact, to share them through exhibitions here and around the world, and to preserve them with the best tools that we have available to us. To do anything less would fail our mission as a public research university. I want to end this year's address by discussing general education. IU unashamedly embraces the classic liberal model of higher education as the very core of an IU education, but it also rejects the view that it is incompatible with the modern educational needs of society. In fact, we believe that this model of education, which is an education in breadth and depth, is essential to producing the kinds of creative, flexible, adaptive graduates so in demand in the state and elsewhere. It is these kinds of graduates who are the innovators, the creators, the entrepreneurs of tomorrow, as they have been in the past. Great universities, by their very nature, provide both breadth and depth. They offer a wide range of disciplines at the undergraduate level, and they employ talented and engaged faculty with a thorough understanding of their disciplines. And great universities seek to assure that their students have the benefit of both breadth and depth by requiring a series of general education courses and at least one major subject of study. Subject to study. General education requires breadth, and having a major provides the depth. As often happens, however, general education is not always understood as a way of providing structure to breadth, exploration, and perspective, but rather that is seen as something that has to be gotten through, a box to be checked on the way to choosing a major in graduation. And nothing could be further from the truth. General education is the foundation of a university education, indeed the foundation of a liberal education. Students should be encouraged to make the most of it, and our campus facilities, campus faculty should be encouraged to be sure that campus general education requirements continue to reflect its purpose in the context of an ever-changing educational environment. It is commendable, therefore, that all of IU's campuses are undertaking, or have recently undertaken, reviews of their general education requirements, either as part of the accreditation process or as a separate review. While these are quite appropriately campus-specific reviews, it has been well over a decade since the Board of Trustees directed all campuses to adopt general education requirements. It is thus important that the university as a whole be confident that general education is achieving its academic goals, that the requirements are up to date, and also that campus requirements, while distinctive, are nevertheless coordinated to avoid creating unnecessary barriers to students' progress towards their degrees. To that end, I'm asking the Executive Vice Presidents to report on the status of general education at IU at the upcoming Board of Trustees meeting in December. In addition, over the coming academic year, each campus should put in place a process, if it has not already done so, to assure that its general education program serves the breadth purposes of exploration and diversity of perspective, is effective in achieving these and other goals of general education adopted by the campus, reflects developments in the disciplines that contribute to general education as well as the skills expected of educated citizens in our society, meets the requirements of state law on transfer of general education credits, and articulates consistently and transparently with the general education requirements of all the other IU campuses in order to reduce, to the greatest extent possible, barriers to students' academic progress and degree completion. And I ask the Executive Vice Presidents to report to me by the beginning of the next academic year the progress that each campus has made towards these goals. And finally, while it is not within our power to require all students to receive their general education courses at our respective campuses or even at IU, we should have as a goal a program of general education that draws in and engages students, even those who might otherwise be inclined to seek the relevant coursework elsewhere. General education should, in short, be a sought-after feature of an IU education and not a requirement to be met in the least demanding possible way. So this is the last State of the University address in the last year of its second century. The state of the university is strong, vigorous, innovative, ever adapting, but ever committed to the fundamentals of an outstanding liberal and professional education, and ever mindful of the vital role that universities play in human civilization as the creators, disseminators, and ultimately as the preservers and guardians of knowledge and the riches of millennia of human culture and achievement. For in these post-truth times, it is knowledge that will ultimately overcome this grave but temporary backward step in human progress. And as we approach the bicentennial of Indiana University, we will remain steadfastly committed to the outstanding traditions of academic excellence that have been a hallmark of this great university for nearly 2 centuries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President McRobbie. This concludes our program. I invite you to a reception at the back of the room.